Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Jeremy Robinson, welcome to the conversation today.
Delighted to be with you.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from New York City. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about how executive coaching will impact HR in the future. I think the modern world of work generally is in flux, and there's a lot of shifts happening, certainly within the area, the industry of HR and the functional areas of HR. There's tremendous adjustments happening right now. And so coaching is going to play an important role as we navigate these shifts. This is what we're going to explore together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Jeremy's bio with everybody. Jeremy Robinson's career as a leadership coach and trainer and developer of executive coaches has had breadth and depth since its inception. His executive coaching work skyrocketed in the early 2000s as buzz about the benefits of training key talent in emotional intelligence was starting to get loud. Robinson was sought out by several major pharmaceutical and financial service corporations, which had just put serious efforts into designing executive coaching initiatives for key talent and high potentials. He migrated success at those companies through his knack at winning over 80% rate of coaching chemistry meetings with prospective clients. And soon he became known as an executive coaching generalist who worked with both large and small organizations that had a commitment to empowering female, African-American, Latino, and LGBTQ plus leaders. His practice has continued to develop as Jeremy has added a team coaching certification and group coaching work to his executive coaching portfolio. To date, he has coached over 400 executive coaching clients. And there's so much more I could share, Jeremy, about your background, your accomplishments, your wonderful career, but I'm going to pause there. Is there anything you would like to highlight before we dive on into the conversation?
I'd like to highlight that one of the greatest things about being an executive coach is getting to meet interesting people like you. I wouldn't meet them walking out in the street in New York City, but somehow sitting on Zoom or going into an office, I get to meet these fabulous people like you, and I just feel very grateful for that.
Oh, I appreciate that, and I completely agree. Having the opportunity to consult or coach opens the door to so many wonderful interactions, and then having conversations like this on the podcast. I'm upwards of 1,500 interviews on this podcast over the last 5 years or so, and it has been awesome. Just an amazing opportunity to just talk with folks from all over the world, and it's something that I still kind of scratch my head. I'm like, I can't really believe that this has happened, but it started as a pandemic kind of side little experience. I'm like, I miss talking to people, I miss going out, I miss traveling, I missed all of that, and I always listen to podcasts. And I'm like, I'll go ahead and I'll just start something and see what happens. And it just kind of came from that. And it's been.
Well, I think you're being a little humble. I think you're a pretty hard worker.
Well, I'm a hard worker, but it has been something that has been a really nice, pleasant surprise. And I agree with you. Like having these conversations is one of the highlights of my day and week. It really is reinvigorating. And I hope it is for the audience. And today, again, we're going to be talking about HR and the transitioning role of the HR professional and what coaching can do to support and sustain that. Maybe as we start, though, I'd love to just hear a little bit about your early career and how you shifted into the coaching space.
Yeah, who knew, right? So when I came out of college, I was a newspaper reporter. I was always a good writer. I won a couple of poetry prizes in college. I was so lucky. I got a lot of really brilliant writers to be my mentors over the years. I mean, the brief list includes Isaac Bashevis Singer, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature, James Dickey, who won the National Book Award, James Merrill, blah, blah, blah. There's more there. But the point is, I was a young dude. I was pretty talented, but I don't think I was that talented. And people just mostly incredibly nice to me. So I quickly realized that I wasn't going to make a living as a poetry person or a poet unless I want to get a doctorate also, and I didn't want to be doing that. So I got a job as a newspaper reporter at various papers, first in New England and then in California. And what I was doing as a newspaper reporter was I was covering people doing stuff in the world, which seemed wonderful to write about. Especially I like to write, on deadlines, when the city editor is standing over my desk and needs 2 takes to get the thing on the front page or the second section in 20 minutes on one of those old Royal typewriters like you see in the movies. But what I didn't like was I was standing outside the fire and I wasn't helping anybody with the fire. So that seemed like a really disconnect for me. So that was my first disconnect. My second disconnect was I was writing a novel. And even though I loved writing and I think I was pretty good at it, I found it much too lonely for me. Didn't work.
Mm,
So I was thinking, well, what goes with this that has this kind of interior
hmm
journey?
hmm
So I decided to become a licensed clinical social worker, psychotherapist, which I did. And I was fortunately quite gifted at it. So I pursued a career in that. And on my way to doing that in this particular institute I was training on, they had something called mental health consultation, i.e., apply the skills of being a therapist to the workplace, i.e., being a coach. But they
hmm
didn't call it that. They just called it something else. But I had a supervisor. I was coaching somebody who was now the boss of people she had been the peer of. And I worked with this person for 3 months, and it worked out very well. It was at Jacobi Hospital. I still have some contacts in New York City. So then I ended up heading this department, and I started trying to do something which I didn't even know it was called, which was executive coaching. And by the way, I got nowhere with it for about 10 years until Daniel Goleman came along and wrote this book called Emotional Intelligence.
mm.
And I said, aha, I think I have something here. And
Bringing social work to the mainstream, right?
yeah,
In organizations.
yeah, exactly. And I would just point to the book, what do you do? I got this book here. You want to make your people more emotionally intelligent? I think I can help. Let's give it a shot. And it seemed to work out pretty well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate, the background in humanities, in writing, and then in social work, and the transition into coaching. And I actually often tell people, so I come from a large family, and most of my family are in the social work and therapy realm. I come from a family, I've 8 children. Both my parents are therapists and social workers. Most of my siblings are. And then I'm kind of the oddball out. I'm not. But I tell people, I'm like, it's not really that different. Like I do much of the same types of things. I just do it on like the internal, like organizational and leadership level. But it's a lot of the same stuff. And in fact, like my sister, who's a therapist, a lot of times she'll look at my articles, that are written from an organizational leadership lens, but
Right.
it's like totally the same type of stuff that she
Yeah.
does in her, therapy or social work, work with clients. So there's definitely clear opportunity for overlap and informing, each can inform the other, I think.
Yeah, high altruism, interest in people, having a literary mind. I got a master's degree along the way in writing, and I always felt that somehow having that was as useful as any clinical degree I ever had. Not
Mm,
that the clinical degree was bad, but
sure.
understanding plot, dialogue, nuance, reading Shakespeare. That's pretty good to know in terms of your understanding about stuff about conflicts of human beings, right?
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Well, very good. So you find yourself now, you're in the coaching world. You start to have more clients. You've leveraged your kind of transitioning career and past experiences with writing, with social work into coaching. Tell us more now about iCoach, your global executive training program, and how that emerged and how you started training HR professionals.
Well, that's sort of a bunch of guys got together. Oh, actually, one woman, shepherded by a guy named Bob Lee, who used to be the head of the Center for Creative Leadership and for Lee Hecht Harrison, outplacement firm. He was a very entrepreneurial psychologist who was a bit of a character. And he rounded up me and 3 other colleagues, and we were doing a program at the New School for Institute. And then we decided we'd take it somewhere. We didn't know where to take it to be a coach training program. And we wanted to have several components. We wanted to have classes, we wanted to have individual supervision, and we had to have an individual practicum where the actual participants would get an actual coaching case that was theirs, and we would supervise them on it, and they would get to learn through doing. So we started doing that in 2004. We rented space at Morgan Stanley, and we were off to the races. And we've been doing it since then, 23 years. They all get a coaching practicum.
Yeah, I like the experiential learning piece of it. I think that's really essential. That probably speaks to your social work background that
Yeah.
you designed it that way.
Yeah.
And you've trained a lot of HR professionals over the years. Any idea kind of where that number stands?
Well, I guess since it's a boutique program and we run it once a year, I guess we've trained somewhere between 35 and 350 and 400 people. And probably half of them or 2/5 of them are from HR, in part
Hmm.
because they are doing HR partnering, in part because some of them are really good at it. I mean, some of them have trained are extraordinary, just breathtakingly good. And some of them are just very good. And they get a lot of them are business partners, so they get having to be kind of the doorstep of leadership.
Hmm. And so you're training them, and then they receive certification. They go off and they train others. Do you have a sense of kind of what the ripple effects are of that?
I don't know as much as I should. We don't track them as well as we should, but it is gratifying to hear them pop up and see them post over LinkedIn and see stuff that's happening that they've done. And it does, there's a multiplier effect. As that was one of my students on the award and executive coaching program. She wrote that book. So you see that happening, which is very gratifying.
Yeah, absolutely. So, since 2004, you've trained hundreds. And they go out and they train more, and they
Right.
write and they influence. But as I teased in the beginning, we're in a dynamic period. Disruption is the name of the game. Change is
Yes,
the name of the
sir.
game. Lots of things are shifting
Yes, sir.
right around us, the ground under our feet. Where do you see the HR profession moving, and how do you see coaching, executive coaching, being a player in that space?
Well, it's such a great question, and I don't really know the answer. I feel like it goes several ways.
Hmm.
One way it could go was a friend of mine named Carol Wesselish wrote a book a couple of years ago called Destined to Lead, and she recounted the story of this very wonderful HR executive at Rahman House who said to her, "We're going to have to go inside out," meaning coaching leaders on more of the self-awareness stuff than the business dynamics. Their leaders
Hmm.
were too soft at that organization. They were too nice and they needed to be firmed up. So they recruited her. And she coached 70 leaders over 10 years, of which, by the way, 20 of them became CEOs at other companies, which is extraordinary. So there's that. There's a very sophisticated part of HR that really understands leadership well. But there's another part of HR leadership, which is not really leadership. It's just sort of, I should be nice about this, but it's sort of like it doesn't necessarily inform what's happening with the program, the company. There's no synergy there.
Yeah.
So when I thought executive coaching was having a moment about 2 years ago, I thought that people in HR were really getting leadership in a way that they were able to both do it themselves and translate it for their leaders. Now there's a little bit of a fragmentation occurring because of what I call a commoditization of executive coaching.
Hmm.
A lot of coaching being offered that's sort of like one-off things, and
Yeah.
people are calling it executive coaching, which I beg to differ. I don't think that's executive coaching. I think it's coaching. Call it coaching, fine, but don't call it executive coaching, which has a 360, which has a beginning, which has an end, which has a long enough process for coaching to succeed. After all, from my understanding, the reason executive coaching got invented was it wasn't training. It had a tail to it. You didn't just go away for 3 days, feel all jazzed up, come back and feel great and forget about 90% of it. Because you had something on a tail of it, 3 months or 6 months, you could constantly over time reinforce learning. And coaching is going back from there right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And there's always a need for more of a holistic approach to change, right? Whether we're talking about personal change, team organizational change, if we're talking about leadership change and mindset shift and how you interact with other people, like none of that happens overnight. And
Yep.
you can't, I mean, you can have the most dynamic speaker ever with the
Right.
greatest content ever,
Right.
who comes in and does amazing workshops. And you could do a whole bunch of that over the course of several days at a retreat. But guess what? It's not sticky enough. That alone is not sticky enough to really drive behavior change long term, like sustainable behavior change. It just isn't. And so, regardless of what someone's selling you, that's not going to give you the types of results that you want to see. It's not going to have the type of shifts. And so you have to have a more holistic, long-term approach over a period of time with iterations and follow-up and an opportunity for people to really lean in and grow into what they're learning about, right?
Hundred,
That,
100%.
that I mean,
According
that
to,
probably sounds obvious to everybody,
well,
yet, everyone's probably nodding their head and saying, yeah, of course. And everyone sat through, trainings or, rah-rah seminars and whatever, and everyone's like, yeah, it didn't last. Yet that's what we do over and over and over again within organizations. And so there's this big disconnect, right, between what I think everyone intuitively knows to be the
yes.
case versus what ends up happening, with organizations.
According to Wendy Wood and researchers, it takes 93 days, 93, to change a habit. Okay, that's why a lot of people fail and they go to the gym for 30 days. It's not done yet. They haven't gotten the habit yet. So coaching is similar. It takes 93 days to change. A lot of coaching is based on people changing specific behaviors. People don't understand about executive coaching also. It's not just having these eloquent conversations. It's based on action and behavior change. If the coach is not trying actively to help you change a behavior that hopefully you want and other stakeholders want you to change, it's just empty, nothing there.
Yeah, and what do you think the reason is for the disconnect? Between I think what we all know that, going off to a retreat and having these nice sessions in and of itself isn't going to be enough. Yet that's what we do, and we repeat that over and over and over again. What's the reason for that, do you think?
I think it's a combination of factors. One of the things is sometimes people don't want to or don't know how to do the work. I think that sometimes coaches don't want to approach pain points for people, and that's a real issue. Or maybe they don't want to point pain points and at the same time point acceleration points. It's a combination, it's like anything else. It's a combination of being able to recognize what people are extraordinary at, which I think most people in the workplace don't get enough credit for. There's too much anonymity. And also, there's not enough confrontation of something that they do that's painful to themselves or others. So, filling that mix in really grabs people better than just trying to be polite.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also, I completely agree. There's a variety of reasons, but just from human nature, a perspective on human nature, and especially in Western culture, how short-term oriented we tend to be
Yep.
and like quick fix oriented we tend to be. Um, and it just takes more time and investment, right? To do something more holistic and long term. And we're just used to doing things like a workshop, a seminar, or a retreat.
Right.
We're more familiar with that. We're more comfortable with that. And so we just repeat, rinse and repeat over and over and over again. Even
Yeah.
even when we know, there's only so much that can actually be accomplished through those. And to people's credits, they try to maximize those. They try to
Yeah. They
to
mean
to
well. They absolutely mean
they
well, no
mean
doubt.
well, they want to make the most of those opportunities, but I'm not saying that those opportunities can't be leveraged, like
Right.
they can be important
I agree.
springboards,
I
but
agree.
there has to be follow-up, and there has to be additional components built into a more holistic change initiative, like a whole strategy. And so yeah, maybe as we wrap things up for today, that's just one thing I'll emphasize with everyone who's listening is like, if this sounds obvious to you, great. I'm glad. Now let's do something about it. Like let's actually make sure that next time, we're part of a conversation where these things are being discussed, then we can actually raise the point, raise the issue, and make this, whatever the thing is, the event, the initiative, whatever, make it a more holistic, strategic, long-term approach, something that actually has the potential to have the impact that you are intending it to have. And I am a true believer that we can develop, like emotional intelligence, like you said, in the 2000s. Like, absolutely, people can develop their emotional intelligence. You can,
Absolutely works every time.
yeah, you can absolutely strengthen that muscle. There are all sorts of different kind of soft skills, durable skills, transferable skills, whatever term you want to use for it. There's all sorts of those that are going to dramatically impact your ability to be an effective leader, an effective team facilitator, if you really put in the time and the effort. But it's not enough to just like learn about it. You have to practice it. You have to do it. You have to
Yes.
then iterate, and you have to reflect, and you have to stretch yourself, just like you'd go to the gym and develop over time. Same exact thing.
All of the above. And the good news is it's happening behind a background of really great learning around positive psychology, which actually came to the fore at the same time as executive coaching.
Hmm.
Interesting coincidence in terms of how coaching has become popularized. That doesn't happen without positive psychology, looking at psychology from the standpoint of what's good in people, what's virtuous versus what's sick.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, Jeremy, this has just been a fantastic conversation. We could go on and on, but I note the time. I need to let you go here in a minute. Before we wrap things up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, where they can find more of your work, and then give us the final word for today.
Let me think about the word for the day in the moment. Anyway, my website is www.jeremyrobinson.com. The website for our iCoach Global training program is www.icoachglobal.com. I'm available to be a consultant about coaching if people have questions. I try to know something about coaching because that's the one thing in the world I know something about versus how to exchange a light or something like that. But I'm a great fan and believer in coaching, and people I get to meet with, like you, fascinating people. We meet over coaching. I think that if we practice altruism, we can continue to make the world a better place no matter what kind of nonsense is going on.
Oh, I appreciate that. And there's plenty of nonsense around us, but we can be the change, make the world a better place. I am a firm believer. Jeremy, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Jeremy can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.